It's time to get inside the Giants huddle.
Huddle up, huddle up, huddle up.
On Giants.com.
Here we go.
And the Giants mobile
Get
app.
them in there. Let's go.
Part of the Giants Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Giants Huddle podcast, brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the New York Giants. Madelyn Burke here with Howard Cross after the Giants fall to the Lions 21-14 in their preseason opener here in Detroit. Howard, first of all, when you look at this game as a whole, what is your immediate takeaway?
Well, the immediate takeaway was that, the guys that were playing, they're going to probably get more reps. They did a really good job with takeaways. He had 2 interceptions there early in the game. Defensively, they were doing a good job, especially tackling. They were bringing guys to the ground. Coach said he would like to have the operations to work well. They had no false starts. They had no delay of games. I think he may have called one timeout. I think the thing that he was looking at most and was probably more concerned about was the fact that they couldn't get anything going offensively.
Yeah, offensively. And even at halftime, he acknowledged the fact that, they did have 2 first-half interceptions, one from Pinnock, another from Belton, but the struggle to turn those interceptions into touchdowns instead of field goals.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. They're trying to get, first live drills, first live game, and trying to get on pace with the offensive line to make sure they're up to speed. One of the things that hurts with the way the practice styles are today is that when you finally start getting guys going full speed, you got to catch up to their speed really quickly. So the defense always has an advantage early in the season.
Yeah, the defense looked good. The offense, we saw Tyrod Taylor getting the start, but very quickly Tommy DeVito got in there. Tommy DeVito, of course, the New Jersey native, making his start, and he looked sharp despite the fact that you could tell there were a little bit of nerves coming into this one.
Yeah, I think he did a good job. I think he got himself under control pretty quickly. That'll help when you got Beasley out there you're throwing the ball to. Excuse me. And it also helps when, you get a little protection. You get the ball out quick. Beasley's out there. Some other guys are making plays for him. He got his head, his feet under him, so he did good.
Yeah, he did good. And you mentioned the protection. You saw that offensive line. Of course, they only had 9 available offensive linemen today in the game. John Michael Schmidt, the rookie center, was out there quite a bit for the majority of that, or all of that first half. And JMS, as we know and love him, is one of those guys, a young guy who's really earned the respect of the veterans in that room quickly. Something that, offensive line coach Bobby Johnson has said is so important for a young guy to do at that position especially. But we see JMS out there getting that O-line work in as this group kind of comes together. We didn't see what a starting offensive line unit would be in this game. But that being said, we still saw some strong performances by these guys on the line.
You did. I think JMS was probably the guy you want to highlight when you think about the offensive line. He did a great job standing in there, took on some really good pressure up the middle. Got all of his calls right, got guys in the right position to make the plays. He was doing a great job. They faltered a little bit on the edges because, like you said, there's not your Pro Bowl tackle, everybody in there. But up the middle, he really kind of, made it really stern, and they did a good job, especially when the young quarterback.
You're ready for a change. Payday comes early with Citizens, so go to that retreat. New you moves to the country. Now you're raising goats and launching a lifestyle brand. Are you ready for all that life brings?
Yeah, the young quarterback, and of course the young quarterback gets his very first NFL touchdown to his former high school teammate, Tommy Sweeney, as well. That was a Tommy to Tommy moment, a couple of good fellas, as Sean O'Hara said on our radio broadcast right there. But, getting that first touchdown in a game, even preseason game, that's got to be good for the young guy.
It's really good for him. He's probably grew up a Giants fan, being right here, right there in Jersey, not far from the stadium, probably like 10 or 15 miles from the stadium. That's something that you grow up, that you play your high school championship games. I think he won a state championship in his junior year, so he probably played in the stadium. So, it's just like, home at home, and then having your family come out. I think his mom and dad and a few of his friends stuff came out to see him play. That's all big things. I'm really happy for him for his success. I'm really happy that his family got to see him, and, hopefully he'll, keep getting better.
He finished the game 15 for 24, 155 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. That interception, though, you can't really fault him for it because they were in this position at less than 2 minutes left on the clock. DeVito gets the ball in his hands. They're driving up the field. They're doing their best. He throws a Hail Mary and gets picked off with about 50 seconds left in the game, and that's how the cookie crumbles.
Well, I think more not really his fault. You have to remember the tackles really weren't holding up at the end of the game, and he was just having a hard time just, making sure he had some space to throw the ball. Their core brothers seemed to be feasting on our tackles as they were trying to get themselves set. But, At the end of the game, he made a couple of nice plays, and then at the end, they just turned it up another notch one more time to get after him.
The end of the game, too, I mean, this is the first full game action. You know, you get a lot of practice time. You get a lot of practice reps against your own teammates, against a week of practicing against the Lions right now. But you could see a couple of these guys and these units really not in full game shape yet. That's part of what preseason is, though, is to work into game shape. But it felt like, you know, especially the Giants defense late was getting a little gassed.
I mean, if you're getting gas, because they're running on you, you get 5 yards of carry, yeah, you'll get a little gas. I think what happens mostly is that you get forced in some situations, not really forcing, but the coaches probably discussed beforehand, hey, you know what, if we get a fourth down, if it's in the middle of the field, we're probably going to go for it, coach. Like, okay, so we need to practice, you know, fourth and short, fourth and whatever, just to make sure we get all the situations covered. They're both coaches and both teams want to win, but at the same time, they want their guys to kind of get through and got some coachable moments, put some stuff on tape so they can see, you know, okay, so here we are at fourth and 3. Like, yeah, but we're on a 35 coming out. Yeah, but we're at a 4th and 3. We need to run this play. Let's see how it looks. And they did that. Both sides did that a lot.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the things, too, is situationally seeing how things look. Brian Dable talked this morning about how, in our meeting with him, saying, you know, we want to run every return back, whether it's kick return, a punt return. We're going to put Eric Gray back there and just see what he can do. And they, for the most part, really did that. Eric Gray showing some quickness, some shiftiness, some decisiveness, especially early on in that position. What did you notice from the young running back?
He did a good job. I think he, you know, once they all get together and start, you know, doing the protections and the coverages the right way, not that they did it wrong, but the right way, they'll be able to get a little more on it. I think you saw a lot of both teams trying to, you know, decisively kick the ball in play to make these guys have to return it. Both coaches have talked about that. We saw a lot of that. He did a great job catching the ball, a great job getting upfield. He did a great job catching the punts and getting those balls upfield. The Giants haven't had a big-time returner in some time, so he has a high expectation on his abilities. So I hope that he can live up to it.
And special teams, as we know, is the way to make a roster when you're on the bubble, right? You need to have special teams coach Thomas McGahee pounding the table for you, especially if you're in a crowded position room, to make this Giants roster or any roster in the National Football League. But not just in the returning side, but also, you know, on the other side of the ball. And, you know, we saw later on in the game, there was a 94-yard punt return by the Lions. Sometimes that's one of those things I can imagine the special teams unit saying, okay, let's clean this one up a little bit.
Well, what happens in that situation, you saw what happened. That was the one time the coach had to call a timeout, or they got a penalty for too much time before the play clock ran out, and that was like on a punt. That usually never happens. The reason why it happens is because they didn't have the right personnel in. Then they run the personnel in. You know, there's a lot of like who's in, what position am I in, and, you know, what's the protection kind of thing. Then all of a sudden the ball is snapped, and the punter hit an amazing punt. I mean, it was really, 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 really long. So once that happens, you really have to have lane integrity when you're coming down the field. You can't get in a situation where you're running behind your own color. You have to stay in your lanes and make sure you finish the play. They got down there, the first guy missed, and all of a sudden there are guys following other guys down, and it's a recipe for disaster.
You love turf. You're good at it. So you start a turf biz. Business grows, your savings grow. Become the most celebrated name in turf. Are you ready for all that life brings?
I mean, this is still early. This is preseason game number 1. And, you know, as competitive as the players and the coaching staffs are, the wins and losses in preseason don't actually mean much when this regular season starts. It's about evaluating the talent. It's about making sure that this group is ready to go week 1 against Dallas. Also keeping this group healthy. And, you know, unfortunately, there were a couple of injuries tonight. Colin Johnson, wide receiver Colin Johnson, left with a knee injury. Corner Cordell Flott left with an abdominal injury. For the most part, you know, this team came out unscathed, which is what you want to see, right?
Yeah, you do want to see that, but, you know, no matter if you put your helmet on and your cleats, you want to win. So they're going to go out of this, and coach is going to be talking to them about, you know, you got to learn to do a lot of things, and one of the things you got to learn to do is to win and close out games. You have a lead in the fourth quarter, protect your lead, defense, pick it up, make sure you don't give them a yard. Wink will be all over them about that as well. So, I know the preseason games in theory don't count, but this is every opportunity for you to prove yourself, prove you have that you belong. You make some plays on special teams when you're not getting like 20 reps or 30 reps during the game, so you might get 5 or 6 reps on special teams. You got to make every last one of them count.
Is there a moment from the game today that tomorrow you'll look back and say, okay, this is a defining play, this is a defining moment, or this is something that I'm going to remember about the way that this Giants team looked in their preseason debut against the Lions?
I'm think about the tackle play late in the game and how those guys were like having a hard time standing up, and I've started to think about like, is this is going to be a question or a bone of contention as their team tries to like put together, real depth at that position when it comes to late in the year for Evan Neal, who's out with a concussion, and Thomas, who just didn't play because he just was holding him out. If something were to happen to one of those guys, those are the people that we're watching that would be in the game. So I'm really curious to see how, in the next couple of weeks, how that play hopefully picks up a lot.
And of course, this is the first year that the cuts will go from 90 to 53 in one fell swoop. That cut will be made at the end of August on the 29th. And right now, we've got 2 more preseason games to evaluate the talent. The Giants Huddle podcast, of course, rapid reaction, breaking down the very first preseason game between the Giants and the Lions. Giants Huddle is brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the New York Giants. From game day to every day, Citizens is made ready for Giants fans with insights, guidance, and solutions. Learn more at citizensbank.com. Plus, Giants fans love a winner. It's why they love Citizens. Named a 2022 Best Bank in the U.S. by The Banker as the official bank of the Giants and sponsor of the Huddle. Citizens is made ready for fans of Big Blue. Learn more at citizensbank.com. That's a wrap. For Howard Cross, I'm Madelyn Burke. Giants Huddle podcast can be found anywhere you get your podcasts.